Now, have you ever avoided a certain place or changed your plans because you had a sixth sense that something bad might happen? Well, we asked you if a sixth sense... I'm so glad how many times I had to say it's really, really been fun.
Say it again,
A sixth sense has ever saved you from disaster. And more than 2/3 of you said yes. We're going to read out some of them in a bit, but... I bet something like this has happened to you, has it, Denise? I can't imagine that it wouldn't have.
I'm not really a massive sixth sense person.
Oh.
I mean, or maybe I just don't call it that. I do follow my gut, I suppose, when it's been big decisions like whether I should leave a job that my head and other people are telling me absolutely don't. I've always gone with what I felt in here, and usually it's been the right decision. My mum, the main incident was my late mum when I think I was 11, and she didn't believe in, she used to poo-poo anything to do with sixth sense or anything to do with ghosts or anything to do with supernatural, anything like that. She completely poo-pooed it. But one day I was heading out, we were going on a coach trip from Newcastle to Yarm. And I love Yarm, by the way. But anyway, we were going on this coach trip. And I remember vividly my mum coming to the door and shouting down the little path, "Don't sit at the back of the bus." And I, whatever, went on my way. And she shouted down the street, "Denise, Denise, don't sit at the front, sit in the middle of the bus." And I went, "Why?" She said, "Just sit in the middle of the bus." Anyway, I did. I did what I was told, and I sat in the middle of the bus, and the coach crashed.
Wow.
And it wasn't a serious crash. We went in a ditch. I was apparently on Tyne's television, age 11, going, "I'm just glad we all survived." and funnily enough, I became an actress. I have no idea why. But anyway, we did all survive. And thankfully, there were no serious injuries. But the people in the front of the back of the bus were the ones who hurt themselves and got scratches and things like that. Yeah. And when I got back home that night, in the days, obviously, 100 years ago, it was pre-mobiles and everything, the people in the street whose other kids went to that school, they'd all been terrified because they heard there'd been a coach crash. And my mum was as calm as a cucumber because she just said that she felt it. Yeah. Even though she felt it, she still poo-pooed it somehow. Yeah. She was a bit of a contradiction in terms. But I think it's interesting that 2/3 of people say that they have been saved from something like that. So, yeah.
And I mean, gut instinct, I mean, it's just... Is it just experience that we've got that just leads us to make the right decision? What do you think? Are you a believer in sixth sense?
Well, yeah, I'm a believer in God.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. Like, there was this time I was in South London, where I used to live at the time, and I really felt compelled by God to. It basically just felt that He'd said to me that I needed to go and knock on that door. He said, "Go knock on that door and give that lady give the person who lives at the house the money." And I was like, oh. I felt compelled to do that, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be really odd because that person might open the door and be like, oh, who is this strange person?" So I knocked on the door. I was really scared about doing it because I felt the urge, but I was like, I wasn't sure.
So this wasn't gut instinct. Do you get gut instinct as well? Is this a very different thing if you feel like God's told you something?
Yeah.
To gut instinct?
I think so, yeah.
Right.
But I felt very much like I was... It was definitely... I felt absolutely compelled to have to do it.
OK.
So I knocked on the door and I was scared, and I opened the door and I said, "I just want to give you this." And I put the money in the lady's hand, and it was a lady. She was holding a baby. And I gave her the money, and she immediately broke down into tears. She was, like, in absolute tears, and I was like, "Oh, are you OK?" And she was like, "You don't understand. I was just literally saying..." I think she said she was praying. I was just literally praying and saying, "Oh, God, help me, I haven't got any money. I don't know how I'm going to feed my child. I can't even buy them nappies." And I was just desperate, not knowing what I was going to do. And I was like, well, here you go. This is from God.
And were you nervous about that? Were you nervous that she might say, "You're a crazy person"?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want to do it because I kept thinking the person's going to think I'm crazy, or, like, you know, what are they going to say? Would the person even open the door? You know, I knew which door it was, but I was just wondering, would they even open the door? Would they think I was crazy? I was really nervous about that.
How do you know the difference
between your gut instinct? It's difficult for me with that thing of the gut instinct and the relationship with God.
Yeah, and the relationship with God and God telling you to...
Well, my relationship with God, He always tells me to do the right thing. And sometimes I think, you know, I mean, my gut's usually right too, that's true, but normally when God tells me to do something, or I feel compelled by God to do something, it's not something I'd probably do, if that makes sense.
If it's always go and give somebody your money.
Go and give somebody some money.
Can I ask you a question now that we're talking about this, Kelly? Because I I am an atheist.
Yeah.
I have the utter respect for people of faith, and I, in fact, envy people who have a strong faith. I personally don't, because I don't see evidence of it. So, what would you say to someone who is in a country of famine or war, and they're trying to suckle their child, and nobody's going to be told to knock on their door by God because they don't even have a door, they don't have a house, they have no hope or future?
Yeah.
Why do you think God is talking to you and I don't have a faith anymore because I don't see how it's possible with all of the hurt and suffering going on in the world, and why he's talking to some people and not to those people?
Firstly, I acknowledge what you're saying, because it's really difficult when we look around the world to say, well, where's God in all of this? And we can see so much destruction around the world. But I also see the great that God does around the world through people. So he uses people in all different dimensions of life to help others.
But if he's so great, why is he not stopping the devastation that we're suffering at the moment?
There are questions that I cannot answer you,
Yeah.
but I also see that there's a lot of good that God does around the world through people and in people. For example, I don't think that I would be the person that I am, and I could probably cause quite a lot of devastation as a person in my circle, in my country, in my world, within my family, if I didn't serve God, because he makes me a better person. And so therefore, the influence that I have on my surroundings, on my family, in itself, I think I've made it a better place or a nicer place.
I'm so fascinated by
Yeah.
it. I could talk all
So
day.
it's so rare that we hear people talking about their faith. So thank you for that. That was, but we do need to read, because we have asked you, we have begged you to give us your opinions on this, and loads of you have been in contact. You've got one there, haven't you, Denise, from Yvonne?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I was just giving Kelly a hug.
having a moment.
You were having a moment. Oh, it's all right, I'll take it.
I've got one from Yvonne. Always trust your gut feelings. I ran a class in school one day, ran out of a class based on a gut feeling. I had to get home. Teacher said no. I went anyway and got home to find my mum lying injured behind the front door. She'd fallen down the stairs and cracked her ribs. She couldn't get up without help, so there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've got one from Jean. She said she cancelled a hot air balloon ride in Egypt. It crash-landed onto the mainland, and she said luckily no one was injured. Thanks for that, Jean.
And finally, Katie, my hubby had parked the car at the top of our hill, had this really strong feeling we needed to move the car and park it outside our house. He didn't, and it was crashed into.
There you go.
Well, hopefully nobody was hurt, but I bet you never let him forget that.